Hello, my name is Frances Hardway Greenway, and I am present here to tell you about my story. I was born on the 20th of November, 1777, at Mangorsfield near Bristol, England. I am the son of Frances Greenway. Yeah, I know, weird, right? I have the same name as my father. And the beautiful woman who I call my mother, Anne Nee Webb. I'm an English-born architect whose family forms of employment are stonemasons, builders, and architects. I am married to a lovely woman who's named Mary, and I am a father to two sons, Henry John Valentine Greenway and Charles Capel Greenway. And I also have two daughters, Kezia Jane Angus Greenway and Caroline Ann Greenway. I'm ashamed to say, but in 1812 I was sentenced to death for forging a document. Luckily for me, my sentence was later changed, but I still had to suffer massive consequences. Instead of being sentenced to death, I got transported as a convict to Australia for 14 years. As a convict, I am not the poorest, but yet I am not rich. Just super hard working. The journey to Australia was not pleasant. I was aboard on the General Hewitt 3-decker sailing ship that launched from England on the 26th of August, 1813. I was accompanied by about 300 male convicts, 104 crew members, 70 soldiers, 15 women, and 5 children. During this journey, we were taken aboard in chains and shackles. Once we were all aboard, these chains were unlocked. The convicts and I were all taken into a massive hatch that would open, and we were all forced to go below the prison deck where they would close the hatch and lock it tight shut. It was scary being on the ship. I missed my family every single day and regretted the crime that I committed. I wish I could go back, but I know I couldn't. Even on board, I sometimes got put into chains and behind bars. We were treated like animals. The quarters we stayed in had ventilators to let in light and air, but at times it was still very gloomy and dark. The ship was not large enough, and I didn't have much space, so we were cramped up in unhygienic conditions that even 34 of the male convicts died on the trip. The living conditions on the ship were distressing. With a bucket of water and a bucket for waste, which was carried away on deck to dispose of, the cramped conditions were risky. Diseases could spread rapidly, and dysentery and cholera were common. Thankfully enough, I made it out alive 6 months aboard a ship. The ship arrived in Australia at Port Jackson Cove in New South Wales on the 7th of February 1814. Gratefully enough, my wife and 3 of my children followed along 5 months later on the Broxenbury ship, which arrived on the 28th of July 1814. I was blessed to have much freedom when I arrived to Australia. Shortly after my arrival, I began a private practice with the office at 84 George Street, Sydney. I spoke out that I am open to commissions of all kinds. The Governor Phillip often employed other convicts according to their skills. I worked for the government, and a miracle happened. I got given a ticket of leave. In March 1816, I was appointed Civil Architect Assistant Engineer at a salary of 3s a day, quarters for my family and I, a horse and forage. My first piece of work for the government I designed was a lighthouse, known today as the Macquarie Tower, located in South Head of Port Jackson. Regularly for breakfast, I would wake up bright and early to get started on my day. I am given a salty meat stew, sometimes with a few vegetables like cabbage, onion, potato, and turnip. My food was usually cooked in a big pot that could hold 280 liters. The other men would get served the exact same amount of meat. Each time one man has the job of giving out the food and make sure that we all get the same amount. I am also given bread. The men and I sit together in groups of 6. We call this messes. For supper, I don't get much. Only leftover bread that I took from breakfast would usually be what I have. I was lucky if I got a cup of tea. Rats were a massive problem. They always scavenged our food. The clothing that I wear is a cotton shirt with white canvas trousers, a thick blue woolen jacket, a yellow and grey overcoat, long socks, shoes, a neckerchief, and a woolen or leather cap. I would sleep in lodges that were available in a neighbourhood called the Rocks. Also, local Aboriginal people lived there too. They camped close to the convict lodges, fished at the harbour, traded goods and food with people, and brought news from further away. Government policies/laws were made. This affected my life due to the fact that I was always living in fear and scared I would suffer any punishments like flogging with a cat-o'-nine tails. When I had free time and not working, I would often chat up with some mates, smoking clay tobacco pipes, and sometimes huddled around the fires in recreation sheds if it was cold. When it got boring, I'll entertain myself by playing games, telling stories/getting told stories, recited poetry, compared tattoos, and even got juggled. Gambling is one of my favorite games to play, even though if we were caught gambling, it could result in ending up in solitary confinement cell. Other games that my fellow convicts and I enjoy to play are cards or games like chess, draughts, nines, men's morris, tic-tac-toe, shell game, and pitch and toes. Thank you.